able to connect with a Franciscan priest who had been an exorcist for 25 years. And then he permitted me to sit in on 40 exorcisms that he performed during the time that I was there. And then that allowed me to learn firsthand the ministry of the church for those who were up against the forces of evil and were seeking help.
What was the most extreme one you witnessed out of the 40? Because, of course, you get that question all the time.
There are a few that stand out. Obviously the very first one, I'm talking with an elderly lady and her husband, and she's explaining to me why she believes that she's possessed. And, I'm just, the three of us are in the room where we're having a conversation, and I'm watching Father Carmine, the priest who trained me, and he walks into the room and he puts a roll of paper towels on the table, and he walks back out, and he comes back in and ties a plastic grocery bag onto the wall radiator. He walks back out again, and he comes in, and this time he has a purple stole, which is a piece of purple cloth that a priest will drape around his neck as a sign of his priestly office. He has the rite of exorcism in his hand, and he immediately takes holy water and he blesses this little elderly lady. As soon as the drops of water hit her, the demon manifested. Her eyes rolled in the back of her head. She began foaming at the mouth, growling and snarling, and throwing out all kinds of blasphemies.
Such as?
She was insulting God. She was insulting me and Father Carmine and just about anyone. Basically, doing anything as a way to disrupt this particular prayer of the church.
And then you said, so you've seen many. So that was the first one you saw. Was there anything that was more extreme than her?
Absolutely. The one that really stands out the most was during an exorcism when the demon manifested and the person's body began to levitate.
You saw somebody's body levitate?
I saw a person levitate during an exorcism.
How much was the levitation?
The person rose about a foot out of the chair they were in, because I'm looking at this in disbelief, and Father Carmine is praying the rite of the church, the prayers, and he's glancing over and looking, and he looks back at his book, he looks back at the person, he looks back at his book, then he takes his hand, puts it on the head of the person, and pushes him back down into the chair without ever pausing for even one moment in the prayer.
Was any of that caught on camera?
The church does not videotape. Oftentimes, people...
How convenient, Father.
But let me ask this question.
But the reason the church does that is to protect the identity of the individual.
So obviously at this point, Adam believes in this stuff a lot.
I am very skeptical, just to put it out there. And I'd like to see what the audience has.
But the mixture of who we have today is perfect, of where I think it's healthy to be skeptical. So, if I go to a David Copperfield show and I kind of see, what the works he's doing, I look up, I see the strings, I'm like, that's pretty cool how they're doing it. But in this setting, when that happened, how many people were in the room when you saw this?
It was me, another priest, Father Carmine, the individual, and a family member that was with him.
So five of you.
5 of us.
So it's not. So here's the part. Let's play a skeptic, but let's also play. Why would he say this? So when you look at him, he doesn't look like I watch his interviews. There is, like yesterday, the biggest thing was, what's the motive? Like when I watch Bob Larson, I'm not going to lie, I don't know how you feel about Bob Larson. You look like you have some opinions on Bob Larson or no?
We all do.
Okay, so I'd be curious to get your feedback on Bob Larson. And
Bob Larson is who exactly? He's a famous exorcist.
Do you know who Bob Larson is?
With the daughters? Is that him?
Yeah. Bob Larson's the guy with the daughters. This is Bob Larson. So
yeah, I've seen him.
A guy like him is why nobody would believe in exorcism, okay?
Yeah.
Because this is the part where it's the flamboyant, the showmanship, all this stuff that I have a hard time. What's your opinion on Bob Larson before I even go further?
Well, rather than being critical of someone else, I would tend to want to be more positive about what I believe exorcism is, because we talked about skepticism. An exorcist is trained to be a skeptic. I should be the very last person in the room to believe that somebody is truly dealing with extraordinary demonic activity. Every other possible explanation needs to be exhausted. And that's the approach the Catholic Church takes. That's why even in the United States, we have a protocol that we follow. And step number 1 of the protocol is for the person to have a psychiatric evaluation. Step 2 is to have a physical examination, because the church wants experts in the mental health field and in the medical sciences to weigh in on what is happening or what this person believes is happening in their life. I will say, because I am publicly known as an exorcist, I receive the high volume of people who reach out to me, but the majority of the people who reach out to me have already self-diagnosed. And any exorcist will tell you that when somebody has self-diagnosed, 99% of the time, it's not something demonic.
99% of the time, it's not something that it's more like DID, or it's something else that.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
When someone self-diagnoses, meaning they think that they're possessed by a demon, 99% of the time, it's not accurate.
Correct.
Okay.
So they're calling me and saying, I'm possessed and I need an exorcism. And my response would be, no, you're not. We may get to that point, but we have to look at
what is actually wrong with them at that point. They're schizophrenic, they're bipolar, they're on drugs, they're depression. What's the?
It could be all of those, and that's why it has to be investigated, because I would be the first one to say the church would do greater harm to someone if she labels that person as being possessed, and that label prevents the person from getting the true help that they need. So there may be other people that are exorcists that may be too quick to believe that somebody is possessed. But again, I think that would do greater harm if it prevents them from going and getting help from the psychiatrist or their family doctor. Because the overriding goal should be to get help for the person who is suffering, whether that be due to spiritual, physical, or mental problems that they're having in their life.